Hello everyone, welcome to a new Research Spotlight episode of Synthesis Workshop. Today, we are excited to feature Dr. Immanuel Plangger, who recently completed his PhD at the University of Innsbruck and is now a postdoctoral researcher in the Magawa Research Group. His work focuses on reaction development and biomimetic synthesis, taking inspiration from how nature builds complex molecules. In this episode, he presents his recent research on a non-enzymatic methylcyclization of alkenes, a silver-1-mediated method that mimics the selectivity of natural enzymes and opens up access to challenging molecular structures. Immanuel, we are glad to have you on. Let's get into the talk.
Hello everyone, thank you for the kind introduction and the opportunity to present on Synthesis Workshop. Today I have the pleasure to tell you about the non-enzymatic methylcyclization of alkenes. To begin with, I want to talk about the inspiration for this project, and this actually came from a group of non-canonical terpenoids which are shown here. They are non-canonical insofar as they have an additional methyl group. So instead of C10 we have C11 for 2-methyl isoborneol. Instead of C15 we have C16 for sodorifene, and instead of C30 we have C31 for cyclolaudanol. And we actually asked ourselves the question, where is this additional carbon coming from? Taking a look into the literature, one can find out that there are dedicated enzymes called methyltransferases which can transfer a methyl group to linear building blocks such as geranyl pyrophosphate, a C10 unit, to in this case form 2-methyl GPP. The methyl donor here is SAM, so S-adenosyl methionine, and the side product is SAH, so S-adenosyl homocysteine. 2-methyl GPP can then be further converted by a terpene synthase to 2-methyl isoborneol, which is a non-canonical terpenoid. Even more impressive are bifunctional methyltransferase cyclases. They can not only transfer a methyl group but also induce a subsequent cyclization reaction. This is the case here where farnesyl pyrophosphate, a C15 compound, is being converted to the cyclic presodorifene pyrophosphate, a C16 compound. This can then be further converted by a terpene cyclase to sodorifene. The impressive transformations catalyzed by these methyltransferases have recently also garnered the attention of biocatalysis groups. In 2023, the Hauer group reported an engineered sterile methyltransferase capable to methylate farnesyl at the C3 position to furnish 3-methylfarnesyl. Additionally, in 2022, the groups around Andre and Chen engineered the bifunctional methyltransferase cyclase DLD to convert pseudoionome to cis-alpha iron, which is a valuable fragrance. Taking a look at the literature on the methylation of alkenes in synthetic chemistry without using an enzyme, one can find only few reports. The main contributions here are from Yulia and Shiraishi, who attempted to mimic the reactivity of methyltransferases by heating tri-substituted alkenes in the presence of a base and SAM-inspired reagents, so diaryl methylsulfonium salts. The result of this reaction was a mixture of 8 mono and dimethylation products, and overall the low product selectivity combined with the harsh conditions presumably led to these conditions being applied to only 2 substrates. So this is where we came in, and we actually wanted to develop the bifunctional methyltransfer cyclization reaction onto alkenes and to improve the product selectivity and the efficiency of this methyl transfer. And for this we needed a modified model substrate which has an arene terminating group so that we have a cyclization mode, and then we also set out to screen bio-inspired reagents, so sulfur 3 and sulfur 5 reagents, which are commercially available and typically used for Corey-Tchaikovsky reactions. Unfortunately, no matter what we tried, we didn't find any of the methyl cyclase product, and at most we found undesired protocyclization. When turning to highly electrophilic methylation agents such as Meerwein salt or methyl triflate, we for the first time could observe traces of the methyl cyclase product. And finally, the breakthrough came when we used methyl iodide together with a silver salt, here silver hexafluorophosphate, which allowed conversion of this trisubstituted alkyne to the bicyclic compound at mild conditions, so even at 0 degree. We had to include this bulky pyrimidine base to suppress formation of the protocyclase product. So, having established reaction conditions which can enable a methylcyclization of alkenes, we were very curious how this reaction mechanism is actually working. Consequently, we teamed up with Maren Bodewitz at the Technical University of Vienna and performed computational studies on the mechanism. We first found out that the silver ion is forming a complex with methyl iodide and the pyrimidine, and this complex is actually the active methylating species and can transfer a methyl group onto the alkene in an SN2 type manner. So one can easily appreciate here the trigonal planar conformation of the methyl group and the long perpendicular bonds to the iodide and the alkene. After successful methyl transfer, silver iodide and the pyrimidine are lost and the tertiary cation C is being formed. Tertiary cation C is prone to undergo nucleophilic attack by the arene to form Wieland intermediate D. This then forms a contact ion pair with hexafluorophosphate, which actually acts as the initial base and abstracts a proton to enable re-aromatization and formation of phosphorus pentafluoride and hydrofluoric acid. After final proton transfer to the pyrimidine, hexafluorophosphate is being regenerated. Notably, deprotonation via pyrimidine B1 has an exceptionally high activation barrier and cannot compete with deprotonation by the hexafluorophosphate counterion. So this is a sign of the important role of the counterion, and other counterions also behave differently there. If you want to know more, take a look at the paper. It's described quite nicely there. Having established a reaction mechanism and appropriate reaction conditions, we set out to thoroughly investigate the scope of this reaction, so what can we do with it. And we found out that electron-rich and electron-neutral arenes are well tolerated. Here are some examples with a bromide, a dioxolane, a triflate and a methoxy group. All of them work quite well. Next, we wanted to investigate the alkene substitution degree, and we found out that di, tri and tetra substituted alkenes are tolerated. As a limitation, monosubstituted alkenes are not nucleophilic enough. Also, a monosubstituted alene or an alkyne showed no reactivity, and only partial arene methylation via a Friedel-Crafts type mechanism was observed. When we tried to tether these two ends of the alkene together, we found that we could make spirocyclic compounds, and when the connecting ring is rather small, so a 3 or 4 membered ring, instead of the spirocyclic compounds, ring expansion products can be observed. The mechanism is shown here for the 3 membered ring, where first methylation of the alkene occurs at the site to form the more stabilized cation, so the cation in alpha to the cyclopropane. Then a 1,2 carbon migration leads to strain release and a new tertiary carbocation, which is being attacked by the arene to form this tricyclic 6,6,4 system. A similar reactivity was also observed when we tried to make larger rings. For example, for the 7-membered ring, or where we wanted to make a 7-membered ring, we observed methylation at the desired position, and then instead of closure of the 7-membered ring, a 1,2 hydride shift followed by attack of the arene at the newly formed carbocation gives these 6,6 fused systems. Furthermore, we investigated the incorporation of heteroatoms into the linker chain. Thereby we could make nitrogen and oxygen heterocycles. We could also terminate the reaction instead of normal arene with a heterocycle. Their nitrogen, oxygen and sulfur heterocycles worked amazingly well. The prenyl chain can be elongated to a geranyl chain to enable bicyclizations. And finally, we were also able to terminate the cyclization with another alkene. For this, we needed to introduce an electron withdrawing group close to the second alkene to deactivate this one towards methylation and have the other one more active towards the methylation. and for this we could use nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur functionalities. Finally, we were also able to apply this to the formal synthesis of irones. Here we showcased that we can convert geranyl bromide in 2 steps, including a methylcyclization, to this methylated cyclohexene. This compound has been previously made in 5 steps and is known to be convertible to beta iron, which is a valuable odorant. With this, I'm at the end of my talk. I want to thank you all for your attention and for looking at this video. I want to thank the methylcyclization team, so Thomas Margauer, Maren Podewitz, Elias and Sebastian, who did the experimental work with me. I want to thank all of the people who were involved in the analytics, in the discussion or preparation of this manuscript, all of the members of the Department of Organic Chemistry and the whole Margauer group, and obviously also a big thanks to the funding agency, in this case the European Research Council.
Thank you, Immanuel, for your presentation and for sharing your work with the community. If you enjoyed this episode of Synthesis Workshop and want to see more cutting-edge research in organic chemistry, please like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. You can also follow us on X and LinkedIn to stay updated on upcoming talks and new episodes. Thanks for watching and see you next time.